Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, October 7th, 2021 meeting of the New Ulm Safety Commission at the City Hall Council Chambers. Thank you for all coming this evening. Mr. Stadheim, did you have an order of business you wanted to start with?
Yeah, if we could just do, we have a new member present today, so if we could just do introductions quickly. Joseph Stadheim, City Engineer.
Amanda Grebner, I'm the secretary.
Connie Grams, I joined 6 months ago, so I have to apologize. That's the first meeting I've been to. I had lots of time when I first started. Since then, not so much. This being retired is hard work. People want you to do a million things. It's been keeping me busy. And then school's in session, so I got to go to all these sporting events, 70 of them since the start of school, and MEA, so it's been busy. So other than that, I've got nothing going on, so nice to meet you all.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate that.
I can give you 50 minutes of my time.
We'll do our best.
Bob Melke, retired from Kraft and retired from the military. I've been in town since 1967.
Okay. I'm Bill Alfred. I'm the chair of the Safety Commission meeting, so. Moving on with the business, we have the secretary's report. Is there any additions or corrections to that report? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Old business, Mr. Stadheim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. The only old business item is just the CIP that I presented at the last meeting. I'm going to prepare the final report, and that'll go to the City Council on November 16th at that City Council meeting. End of report.
Thank you. I would like to mention one thing on old business. I see out by the new Quick Trip, they have the lines, the curbs all painted and the signs up, and it seems to be working from what I can see.
Yep. As far as I know, so far so good. So
Yep.
I haven't heard any
Looks good
complaints.
out there. I was by it too, yeah.
It's very busy, and so far so good, I would
It's a
say.
busy place, yeah. Okay. Moving on to new business, we start out, Mr. Stadheim, with the request from Mark Chester to install stop and yield signage on the west side of the intersection of 19th North Street in Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. The request, email and form are included within your packets. Staff went out and took some photos, repaired the overhead photo, which I have up on the display board. Typically, requests of this nature have been granted where there is a sightline issue and to install either yield or stop signage. This is kind of a unique intersection with the hill coming up down from Jefferson Street. We have the park in the southeast corner, the Brown County License Bureau on the northeast corner, and then we start residential kind of on the south side of this intersection. Within the action form that are prepared as well, some additional information. These are relatively low volume streets, so I don't see the traffic loading present that would require control at this intersection. But you guys are free to discuss sightline issues if you feel that is prevalent or not, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Did anybody get a chance to go by there at all?
Mr. Stout, I'm in the group. I did spend a little time driving by it, and I noticed one thing. We've got a lot of businesses there, and these businesses are creating traffic. You got a body shop, you've got a car lot dealer, you've got Heartland Express, and just while I was there, I noticed I thought an abnormal amount of traffic, but
I did notice the sightline issues that Mr. Stadheim mentioned coming down the hill. And then I also, it's interesting because there's one stop sign already at the intersection, but there isn't one on the matching side, and that's where he is requesting putting it. And so that makes sense to me. If there's already a control on one of the corners, it's counterintuitive to not have a control at the opposite corner. So I would be in favor of placing it there for those two reasons.
I don't think that the majority of the traffic is coming down that hill. I think the majority of it is on Franklin Street, and that park is busy. And so
Yes.
I don't think there's any reason that it probably could use more traffic control than less, but that would be a good start.
Mr. Stadheim, do you know anything about that one stop sign on that corner?
That's a good question, Mr. Chair. I did try to research that installation. I did not have any luck to know why that one was placed. Apparently, my search terms weren't good enough within our search program within the city. I couldn't find the history on that one. I did not bug retired engineer Kaler either, so.
Okay,
But
sure. Bob?
I agree. I'm not in favor of putting a stop sign on the hill coming down like that, but where this requested stop sign is located, I think it'd be to me, we have a safety hazard there with all that traffic, and I think that would be a big asset to us.
I may be in the minority then because I drove it and I spent some time there. I did not see any traffic whatsoever while I was there. And I didn't see, the house is set back appropriately. There's no high bushes. I thought the sight lines were fine if you were traveling at a reasonable rate of speed. I would hesitate to put a stop sign at the bottom of that hill, especially during winter. That could get real exciting for someone. That'd be my opinion, that I just, not quite sure why we would need to put
I'm in
one there.
favor of you, not a stop sign at the bottom of the hill, but on the north-south street of Franklin.
Going the other way.
No, not going down that hill.
I see.
Right. It's not the hill that's the
That's
problem.
not the hill, it's the other traffic, the
I see.
north-south.
Okay. I was under the impression that coming down the hill was the
No,
concern.
no.
Well, that's what this gentleman says.
yeah,
Yes.
that was the request from Mr. Chester. That's correct.
Right. Well, I guess I would respectfully disagree that placing one on another intersection that would be more confusing, I think, to have two randomly placed stop signs. When you normally drive up to an intersection, you expect one direction has the throughway and the other direction has the stop. And so if you're mixing those, that could be really confusing. So I would not recommend doing one on the Franklin Street, but my agreement was if we were going to put one, it would be to match the stop sign on the existing stop sign on the Jefferson, not Jefferson, which one?
19th
19th North, yes.
Where would you put it?
Where he's requesting, it's the opposite corner of the one that's there now. I also didn't notice a lot of traffic, but I did notice, coming down that hill, there's that berm on the, I don't know, New Ulm direction still, I'm sorry. You can't really see it in this picture, but it's off to the left on the bottom picture. So you do have to kind of pull up slowly to see around the berm. Hopefully that slows traffic down, but we don't always know that that's the case. Another thing is being on the Safe Routes to School and the school board, we hear a lot of complaints about uncontrolled intersections in town. And so, in this situation, even though it's not close to a school, it is close to a very busy park with the splash pad just right there. And having just one corner marked out of 4, like I said, could be confusing to people driving through there.
That would make sense why they had that stop sign there for that. There's only one crosswalk marked, and that's from the park to go across 19 North.
Right.
Maybe that's why they had a stop sign there.
That could have been, yeah. And, that was put in prior to there's a daycare facility
Right.
to the north of the license bureau. But that sign was there prior to that. But I think that daycare does use the park quite frequently as well.
Right.
Stop sign's been there forever.
Well, if anybody would wish to make a motion,
I'll make the motion, request a stop sign location on the corner where it's marked, not on 19th North. We want to keep the east-west street open, but I think it'd be beneficial by putting a stop sign on the Franklin Street side there.
You're talking where he's requesting the sign on,
Exactly.
would be what would that be, the southeast corner, we'd call that, of
Southwest corner.
southwest corner?
Yep, southwest
Yeah,
corner.
Southwest corner.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion
Mr.
carries.
Chair, can we call roll?
Pardon me?
We have to call roll with a
Okay.
dissenting vote.
Ms.
Oh,
Grebner?
sorry. Amanda Grebner, yes. Connie Grams,
Yes.
Bill Ofterheide,
No.
and Robert Milky.
Yes.
3 yeses, 1 no.
Motion would carry to
Thank you.
recommend to the city council. All right. Thank you, commissioners. Next item on the agenda, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll
That's
let
fine.
you take it.
That's fine, go
If
ahead.
you want me to jump right into it. Staff received a request from Heidi Escalante for a permit parking only signage to be placed on Jefferson Street at her residence at 1000 Center Street. She has a son in a wheelchair, and she doesn't have off-street parking for her residence. So her request is to have a permit stall, so she has that close access to her home. Overhead photo and additional information is included with the packet, along with a couple photos of the residents. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say that in the past, I don't know how long I've been on the committee, 3-4 years, we've approved a few of these for various reasons. Just the permit parking in front of a residence for one reason or another. One was for a disabled person, another was for someone that didn't had mobility issues. So following that, I wouldn't have a problem with this.
Anybody else?
No, I make a motion that we proceed with this request to install permit parking on Jefferson Street.
Motion's been made. There's a second.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. I'll just put my 2 cents worth in. I did drive by and take a look at it. I don't think there's anything inappropriate about I think I'm all in favor of having one there, but I do like Mr. Stadheim's idea. Should they move, it should be removed.
Sure.
If we could make that an amendment to the
Sure.
motion.
Okay.
We need to vote on the amendment first, I believe.
I think so.
As long as Ms. Grams and Ms. Grebner still agree, we should be good.
I agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Motion been made and seconded that we approve the permit parking signage in this location. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Stadheim?
All right, next item, Mr. Chair. Within your packet for review is the 2023 North Highland Avenue and North Broadway preliminary engineers report. So this report was prepared by Bolton & Mink, who is serving as our consultant engineer on this project. This is a federally funded project in fiscal year 2023, and this project will consist of the mill and overlay of North Highland Avenue from Oak Street out to Highway 14. And the project scope has changed slightly on North Broadway. We did plan for a mill and overlay, but due to the existing pavement condition, we are going to do a full-depth stabilized reclamation project. And that will be from 20th North out to the new CASA 13. So within the report itself, has many of the same sections that we have within the report that was presented to you at the last meeting last month. The project summary, estimated costs, And then also for inclusion is the complete streets policy of the city of New Ulm, along with the consultant engineer's recommendation for this project that it does meet the city's complete streets policy. And then last item within the report is the figure showing those project locations. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on this proposed project. We're still in the very preliminary stages, but along with the mill and overlay and the pavement rehabilitation on this project, we would be upgrading the pedestrian ramps to current ADA standards. Even though North Island Avenue is a relatively newer roadway, 15 years old or so, all the ramps along that segment are not in today's standards of compliance. So those will be replaced, and then same on the North Broadway section. We'll bring those ramps into compliance as well.
Is there any discussion? This is just a receive and,
Yep, receive and then
Forward.
recommend to the city council that it does meet the complete streets policy.
I didn't notice, is there any bicycle?
No, it's probably too early at this point. I don't know if we'll paint any lanes on the North Broadway section. Obviously, with the trail on the North Highlands Avenue section, we won't propose anything. Haven't had that discussion yet with the engineer. We're trying to get all of our administrative type work complete, get the project memorandum and things like that complete first before we get into design work. But this will come before the commission at a future date with more specifics, and I'll make a note that was brought up and share that with Bolton and Mink.
Thank you. What are your wishes, group?
I don't see any reason we wouldn't proceed with the recommendation.
Okay.
We don't need anything but approval.
I believe so. I don't think we need a motion on recommend to.
Yeah, so the motion would be just to receive an order filed and then recommend to city council that it does meet
I
the,
recommend we
okay.
approve it.
I second it.
Motion been made and seconded to recommend to the city council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Stadheim, 4.4.
All right. Mr. Chair and commission members, the last item today, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Gatton. He's the Safe Routes to School Coordinator here in New Ulm, and I'll let him run with the last item here.
Thank you. I have a couple visuals just to give each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am presenting on a proposed pedestrian crossing flag system that the Safe Routes to School team is looking to implement with upcoming grant funding. And the need comes from, at various times, the volume of traffic can make it difficult for pedestrians to be able to cross intersections in town, and can even discourage people from taking active transportation to the places because of these challenges. So what we are proposing is a pedestrian crossing flag system, and the way that a pedestrian crossing flag system, it involves buckets on either side of a crosswalk with flags for pedestrians to carry across as they cross to give them more visibility and more likelihood for drivers to yield to pedestrians crossing the street. We've seen several communities implement these. The one that I've been in contact with is in South St. Paul, where their Safe Routes to School team has implemented these pedestrian crossing flag systems at various intersections around their school. The Safe Routes to School coordinator, Sophie Olson, has told me that families are asking for more of them. They really appreciate them, and they make it safer for kids to walk to school, but also anybody taking active transportation around. There's also been lots of studies that have shown that using pedestrian crossing flags does increase yielding behavior by drivers by making the pedestrians more visible. And so the Safe Routes to School team is interested in doing a pilot project of this. So we would buy the materials to put these pedestrian crossing flag systems. They're very low cost. An intersection can be done for roughly around $100 to $150, but it can make a big impact for pedestrians crossing intersections. And so we were proposing to put one in at Center and Highland. We were also on the agenda, it says 5th North and Broadway. However, we had a Safe Routes to School team meeting, and we actually think that since there already is a light at 7th and 3rd, we'd probably rather encourage pedestrians to take those routes. And instead, we think 4th South and Broadway, where there is going to be the enhanced crosswalk, would be a good place to add a pedestrian crossing flag system. And then, as well as the mid-block crossing on Garden and Center, this is a safe crossing to, or a safe place to cross. However, we had some parent concerns that were noted that drivers still aren't stopping for pedestrians when they're attempting to cross there at the rec center. So we're looking at a recommendation for the city council to allow us to proceed with applying for grant funding to get materials for this and implement this program at these intersections.
I have a question. What's the life expectancy of those flags?
Yeah, that's
They'll be
a
by all the bird scooters.
That's a good question. We don't know, and that's why we aren't proposing that we do this at,
Well, for example, what is South St. Paul? I mean, I can see these being everywhere from in the river to somebody's dorm room. I mean, I just know how
I think it's
kids
a great
work. and
idea. I think it's a great idea.
I'm just wondering, what have been their experience with having to replace them?
yeah.
You don't know.
It's a good question, and I know, there's been bigger cities that have done stuff like this, like in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was a considerable expense. So far in my discussions with the coordinator in South St. Paul, that hasn't been an issue there, and so that is why we're proposing the pilot, and we can't answer that until we
Sure.
see how it goes.
Okay, thank you.
Is this supposed to be something like Fort South and Broadway then?
Is this something for Fort South and?
Is it gonna be similar to that?
I'm confused on the question.
Wasn't that, seems to me, the Fort South and Broadway had this pedestrian crossing implemented. Am I wrong, or am I know it was brought up at a meeting.
The flag system was done.
Okay, all right, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of the reasons 4th South and Broadway was an intersection we identified that this program would be good for is because there is the enhanced crosswalk that the state is going to stripe there. And so this would be a good place to, in addition to that.
This coincidentally is my hometown, and my parents still live there, South St. Paul, and so I've used these myself. Out walking around, I recognize the intersection. And then my family and I also encountered them in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, many years ago, and we thought that was a great idea. And I know I've brought it up to the safety or the Safe Routes to School a couple of times. So. I'd be excited to see how this works in New Ulm.
They're still in Jackson.
They're still there.
That's good news.
Sam, I got something to add. Sorry. Thank you, Sam. A lot of good information. I have reached out to MnDOT to make sure they're going to be okay with us doing this. I have not heard back yet. I'm assuming they're going to be okay with this, but that's just one thing with it being on the state highway. Need to make sure MnDOT's on board with that. So I'm hoping to hear back sometime soon on that. So.
Okay.
Anything else?
Unless there's further questions for me.
I think it's a great idea as someone who walks a lot and can use all the help we could get in this town.
Another place I could see one would be on Center and State. Is that correct? Like right by where the government center is?
Yep, probation building. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
a lot of people walk across that.
Yes.
I know the county attorney's office, their staff crosses that daily, so.
Yeah, yep.
Well, I'm sure there's others as well, but that one sticks out.
So if this goes well, that could be another, a spot where we could add another one.
What are your wishes?
I move that we proceed with this trial.
I second, and with the note that they're changing the 5th North and Broadway to be 4th South and Broadway.
Okay, so the motion is that we approve the pilot project with the addition or the change of the address to 4 South and Broadway. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that, I believe that concludes our business meeting tonight. Is there anything else, Mr. Stadheim, that we need to address tonight?
Mr. Chair, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing your evening. Have a good night. We will adjourn.
Okay, thank you.